Binding is something we use very often in many types of garments. In addition to an aesthetic effect, it can also help to stabilize the edge of the pattern piece. This is true for real-life and 3D garment as well. Binding and piping have their own tools in 3D toolbar. To apply binding, select Binding tool and hover over the edge you wish to apply it to. A red dot will show us our location on the pattern in both 3D and 2D workspaces. Click at the beginning and move the mouse along the edge of the garment. A blue line will follow. If suddenly a wrong edge is detected, left-click once to anchor the binding to the correct edge. When you're finished, left-click. Once the binding has been applied, we can edit it with Select Binding tool. This has to be done with simulation switched off. The bound edge will be highlighted in yellow. In Property Editor Type section, we can change the position of the binding from under to over or both. We can change its width in dimensions. Length percentage shows us the length of the binding proportional to its 2D pattern line length. So if it's 100%, then the edge is not stretched or gathered. If it's more than 100%, then it's stretched, and if less, then it's gathered. The number below is the actual length of the binding in 3D window. We can also set the particle distance for the binding and add thickness to it. In Fabric section, we can change the fabric of the binding. Note that the selection in drop-down menu will be showing only the fabrics that we have in the object browser. Let's add another fabric and change its color. Now, if we select the binding with the Edit Binding tool, we will be able to assign a different fabric to the binding from the drop-down menu. Grain direction allows us to select the grain direction of the binding from Bias, Weft, and set our own in Custom. If we select Custom Grain Direction, its angle can be specified in Angle window below it. Top Stitch will allow us to add top stitch at the edges of the binding. Segment A is the upper edge. If we tick it, we will be able to select a type of top stitch we can place there from the drop-down menu. The top stitches here show all the top stitches already present in our object browser. Segment B is the lower edge of the binding, and it works in exactly the same way. In Sewing Line Type section, we can select from Turned and Custom Angle options. If we select a custom option, below we'll be able to specify the fold angle and strength of the seam line. To delete binding, right-click on it with the Select Binding tool and select Delete in the pop-up window, or hit Delete or Backspace on your keyboard. Piping works the same way as binding. Select Piping tool from the 3D toolbar and select the edge the same way as for binding. When the binding has been created, we can access its properties from the Property Editor. Name, item number, binding length and width. We can change its particle distance, toggle its visibility, and select the fabric from the options that had been added to the object browser previously. And finally, if we right-click on Piping with Edit Piping tool, we will see a window with some additional options. Here we can quadrangulate or triangulate the mesh. Changing the mesh type to quadrangular will soften and smoothen the appearance of piping. When you apply binding, you won't find a new pattern piece appearing in 2D window. But if you switch to Print Layout mode, you will find that a binding pattern piece has been created automatically. We will discuss Print Layout mode later on.